Hello everyone, today I'm watching Where Animals' Scientific Names Come From by Salmonella Academy.
Hey kids, I just woke up from a nap I took in January of 2020 and boy are my arms tired. Let's see what I missed. Queen's dead, war in Ukraine, the Taliban's back. What is... Holy
What is he talking
shit.
about?
They made a movie called Scoob.
Oh wait, this is the first video he made after like a 3-year break.
Yep, that just about covers it. Anyway, we all know about the scientific names of animals,
sense.
but did you ever wonder what they actually mean? To find out, we must look to taxonomists. They're the guys responsible for the systems of nomenclature we use to classify organisms, and boy are they convoluted. First you got the big 8, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family,
Okay, so this is just
species.
explaining
I've seen
all
plenty of
that.
mnemonic devices for this, but since the D just showed up in the 90s and is still disputed by some scientists, he's usually not included. So allow me to suggest a few. Dizzy kids puke cereal on fairground staff. Dumb kittens pushing cups over feeds growing spite. Donkey Kong's fucking serendipitously. The way this whole thing works differs slightly depending on which kingdom you pick. So today we'll be sticking to the animal one, cause that one's the coolest and I'm in it. So what constitutes each taxon is pretty
humans
arbitrary.
are technically
they
animals.
just serve to act as another set of branches
we
for
are
a tree that
animals.
taxonomists build. The one exception is species, which is generally defined as any group of animals that can have babies with each other that aren't sterile freaks. Mule, liger, zedonk, skunk ape, they can live fulfilling lives, but they're all
What is that,
blank, so
Bigfoot?
they don't count. On the other hand, in our innumerable trespasses against God, we can make things like Chidandanes, which actually work.
cross
so
species.
dogs are dogs. Besides
Cross
species, though,
breeds.
it's the Wild West in here. Plenty of times, 8 tiers isn't even enough for scientists, so they just stick new sub-levels in between. Legions, cohorts, tribes, series, divisions. And if you want to keep going, you can throw all kinds of prefixes on any of these for even more layers. There's even subspecies, which the more pedantic of you may think to yourselves that creating names for subspecies at all kind of undermines the single somewhat agreed upon definition in the whole tree. To that, my friends taxonomists say, But while that's pretty complex, the actual names themselves are pretty easy to wrap your head around. Though taxonomists may hide behind their fancy Greek and Latin, the Vulgate is no substitute for wit. Now, I've scraped through the scientific names of a load of species, and most of them can be split into a few categories. The simplest ones are the animals that already have names in Greek or Latin. It's a lion, I'm calling it a Leo. Done. Tiger, it's a tigris. Cat, it's a caddis. Easy. Multi-word names can be translated the same way. For the golden eagle, we got Aquila chrysaetos. Gold eagle eagle. They decided to be a show-off and do eagle in Greek and Latin. Essentially the same though. But if a species is too specific or exotic for a one-to-one translation, that's when you gotta get a little creative.
Who even uses Latin anymore?
Inspiration comes from just giving the creature the old once-over and pointing out some cool-looking body part. Generally, the more distinct of an identifying feature it is, the more likely it'll get in the name. For example, Homeboy took one look at this thing and said, yup, red triangle slug. I'm going on break. We call this thing a fucking unicorn, almost like that means one horn or something. Also, some guy deadass looked at an octopus and said, well, all they got is heads and feet. I'ma call them headfoot. And now biologists everywhere
That's what octopus means?
Ironically. Matter of fact, if it's got feet, chances are that's part of its name somewhere. You got 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, equal feet, both feet, double feet, stomach feet, lip feet, sucker feet, wing feet, big feet, slow feet.
So they actually just
no feet, 10,000
did it by feet?
Feet, cat feet, small feet. If it doesn't look that interesting, another thing to point out is where you found it. This could be a territory like American bear or Siamese crocodile, or just a habitat like woods macaque or...
Now that makes more sense.
But that's boring. We need to look at the men behind the magic
one.
and what drives and motivates them. Now, if there's one thing that the scientific community loves, it's clout. And there's no better way to go down in history than plastering your own name on some shit you found. But not all fields have the same volume of things to scribble the old John Hancock over. On the one end, you got physicists just making up their own slightly different form of ionizing radiation measurement. And even then, only the top dogs got away with it. Now, zoology, any little goober flouncing through the underbrush can say, this one has 13 spots, but the one in the book's only got 11. I will call him Splinkus's ladybird. Alternatively, plenty of biologists have given shout-outs to their contemporaries.
There's like what, I think 6,000 species of ladybugs?
From geologists to physicists to explorers and more. Naturally, Darwin's got a shitload, but even the background characters get immortalized one way or another. Who are Thompson, Grant, Summering, Erlanger, Speke, and Cuvier? I don't know, but they've all got gazelles, so they must be pretty cool. Of course, other times, the name checks go to people who had fuck all to do with anything except for one taxonomist being a fan of theirs. Plenty of popular celebrities have species named after them, but since all the
Really?
big cute stuff was found
didn't
and
even
branded
know
a
that.
while ago, most of these idols are
Why would you do that?
commemorated
Who
with awesome
cares
little invertebrates.
about the celebrities?
Scaptia, Beyonce. The only similarity I can gather here is queen bee. It looks like a bee, both not a real bee. There's Anomphilus gregarius, an old stone
Who's
named
this
after an old
supposed
stone.
to
In
be?
2007, one Jason Bond, a professor gregarius, an old stone named after an old stone.
Well,
In
they both look like
2007, one
fossils.
Jason Bond, a professor of biology at UC Davis, dubbed this little dude Myrmecia Neil Youngie to honor his favorite musician, which caused my man Stephen Colbert to go on TV and profess his utter indignation at not having a spider named after himself. So naturally, the next year, Bond actually went on the Colbert Report to announce the naming of apostachus Stephen Colbert. So, if that gives any of you epic biologists out there any idea.
At this point, it doesn't make sense.
Please,
You're just naming
for the love of God, I'll
animals
even take a
after
liking.
random people
by no means
who no
immune to
one
this
cares
phenomenon.
about.
Obama alone has fucking 9. As do a lot of
Obama
other
has
presidents. Trump's got
animals.
a moth with funny hair. Bush has a fungus.
There's one
9.
after
As do
Trump?
a load of other presidents. Trump's got.
What even is that? Some sort of moth? Neopalpa, I don't know. Donald Trumpy. What the fuck? Doesn't even look like him. Although actually, kind of does look like
Got a
him.
moth with funny hair. Bush has a fungus beetle. Reagan's a wasp. Carter's got a darter, and so forth. Even Austria's most famous painter got
There's
the
no way.
blind cave beetle. Mind you, it was 1933, so you can only blame the guy a tiny bit. Hitler
Okay, never
actually
mind
wrote him
then.
a letter saying,
It's okay
Thank
then.
you, my little entomolomensch, and then went on to do, Hitler things. Fun fact: not only was this beetle stuck with just
I don't
about the
understand
worst
why
names
everyone-
you have, it's also
Okay, Hitler
now
was a terrible
facing
person,
extinction
but
solely because
there
of
were
the value
others
to
who
Nazi
did just as bad
memorabilia
stuff as
collectors.
him, but no
So
one
have
seems
a
to care that
sidebar.
much about
Well,
them.
fictional
Like
characters have
Stalin,
their fair
for
share of
example,
species
or
under
Mao
their belt. On the
Zedong.
topic of evil beetles, this one's named after Darth Vader because he kind of looks like his helmet, I guess. This was actually named by the same guy who did
Nah.
the Bush one and belongs to the same genus. There's also this mite, genus Darth Vaderum, which is a lot more accurate and frightening.
If you're gonna name
12,
them
a
after
single
stupid
bone from above
things,
the eye
actually,
socket of a hitherto unidentified
is it better to name them after
dinosaur
real
being
people
studied. And
or
suddenly,
after
under
fictional
the light of the
characters?
full moon, the guy
You know what?
working
No,
with
I
this
prefer the
specimen
Darth
has a neck
Vader one.
covered with hair and his lips clenched into a pog and his endocrine system filled with soy, and he said, "It's just like the eye of Sauron." And then he started chewing on Funko Pops and sweating cream of meme and snorting G Fuel and shitting D20s everywhere until the prostate stimulation made him. The dino's genus is now Sauroniops, from Eye of Sauron. This spider was named after Godric Gryffindor because it looks like the Sorting Hat. SpongeBob has not a sponge, but a fungus.
No.
The legendary birds from Pokemon each have their own, you guessed it, beetle, and the list
Are
goes
you
on.
serious?
Scientists are nerds.
After
Who knew?
Pokemon
Anyway, while this all seems
and
kind of chaotic,
SpongeBob?
there is some method to the madness. One rule is the principle
No, there
of
isn't.
priority. This states that once somebody publishes their chosen name for a species for the first time, that's the name, and other taxonomists typically can't change it. This has led to plenty of misnomers coined by whoever got their foot in the door first, particularly in the case of the guys doing this stuff before we had the luxury of genetic analysis.
So if
Here's
I
one.
discover
Red
a
panda?
species
Nah.
first-
Shining cat, coined in 1825. To be fair, they're
If
actually
I
about as
discover a
close to cats as
species
they are to
first,
actual pandas,
I can
so
name it
whatever.
whatever I
Here's two.
want.
Capsicum
Is that
Chinese.
it?
Eaten there? Sure. Native? Only off by around half a globe, where literally all
I
hot
could name
peppers
it
came from.
anything.
This principle holds true even if someone thinks they found a new species.
So, let's say I find a new species. I could name it the most offensive thing I could possibly think of, and no one can change it? I mean, there's one named after Hitler. So I'd say I can do whatever I want.
Only to later discover that it was already...
That's a disaster
For
waiting to
example, in
happen.
1824, one John Edward Gray documented the plain zebra, calling it Equus burchellii, or Burchell's horse, named after a renowned naturalist of the day. Little did he know,
Burchelli?
back in 1785, some other douche classified this character as the quagga. The last quagga died in a Dutch prison in 1883, so why do we care? Well, in the 2000s, scientists decided to scrape some gunk off a dry quagga pelt and study its DNA. And
For
from
what
that,
reason?
they realized, wait a minute,
Mhm.
apparently this guy and zebras could have, made a little plaid in the hay together. So technically they're one species. And today they're both called quagga. Sounds kinda asinine, but then again so does asinus, and that worked out fine. Just to maintain the distinction, the extinct subspecies was renamed quagga quagga, so you know it's the real quagga. This double naming convention has been done with a lot of subspecies, in fact. Wild horse, spotted panther, or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah,
Gorilla.
the realest gorilla that ever gorilled. Fuck you want from me. Up there. Or my favorite, gorilla. Just like, yeah, it's the gorillest gorilla that ever gorilled. Fuck you want from me. taxonomy. A closely related rule also states that the names of all taxa have to be unique. So if two people coincidentally name any taxa on the same thing, the older one gets to stay and the new one gets the boot. Like if you saw a genus called Echidna, you'd think it was, an echidna, right? Well, no, that'd make too much sense.
No?
For a while it was true, from 1797 to 1811. Then it was pointed out that someone else already called a genus of moray eels Echidna back in 1788. So the real Echidna had to be changed to Tachyglossus, or quick tongue. Then a decade later, a dude did the same thing for a genus of vipers. Another 22 years passed, people discovered the same thing, and they were renamed to Bitis, cause they bit us. That one at least made a bit of sense, given that the original Echidna from Greek mythology was half lady, half snake, but who cares at this point? Anyway,
so the snake should have gotten it.
All the goofy names out there, so feel free to post more down below. That's all I've got for now. Till next time, I'm Sam.
Well, if I ever discover a species, I'm gonna name it a certain word that starts with the letter N. I said it. Nah, I'm kidding. I'd never do that. Or would I? I would. I definitely would. Just for the hell of it. Because I would want to see what happens. Because if you think about it, if it's Latin, most liberals probably wouldn't even be able to make the connection. They wouldn't even realize what it's actually supposed to mean. They would just simply think, oh yeah, this sounds close, but it's something different. Someone's gonna do that. If someone ever discovers a new species, they have to name it you know what. Can't say it on YouTube. So yeah, I think after watching this video, everyone can agree that animals' scientific names are very weird, stupid. They come from all over the place. You can pretty much name any new species that you discover whatever you want, which once again is just a disaster waiting to happen. And I hope it happens one day, so that we can laugh about it. And yeah, I think that's it. So like, subscribe, comment. The link to my Discord server is down in the description below, so check that out if you want. And I will see you in the next video.